road surface through here is a little worse for wear, it has to be said, but it's quite a challenging bit of road to ride along. A bit of gravel there in the road. Everywhere you look there could be problems. Yeah, so we're now on the 149 Coast Road heading towards Hunstanton, and we'll be going through quite a few pretty coastal villages along the way before we reach Hunstanton. So hopefully you'll enjoy the ride. Oh, there's a lovely red kite flying up in the sky up there. Lovely. So the first village we're coming through on this little trip along the North Norfolk coast is a place called Burnham Overy Staithe. This is a very quaint little Norfolk village. The road through here is appalling though, my word. Very narrow, almost Cornish in appearance. When you go down to the front and you can see the boats and the water and so forth, and the tidal changes, it's really quite something to see and well worth a visit. But as you can see, the roads weren't built for 21st century traffic and tourists. So you have to be coming along here for a ride, you have to be very mindful of what's going on. But this one here is an example, but there are lots of little eateries everywhere that are very popular. But the road surface, blimey, it's as bad as I've ever seen it. Off to the left is the town, and off down there to the right is the road to the seafront, as it were. And it's a very, very popular. You can get right out on the bank, right out to sea. And up here on the left is Burnham Overy Windmill, which is another popular spot for photographers. You often see people stopping here and having their pictures taken in front of the windmill. I think there's a little gateway or entrance to it, but you can, yes there is, just up here, look. So you can stop here and take your photographs. Sometimes there's poppies in the foreground, not this year it seems, but it's a very nice photo opportunity. Looks like these people here may well have been taking advantage of just that. Well, they're even walking around in the barley field. How lovely. Yes, very nice. So we're now coming down to a very tight and twisty section of this road. A road that demands your utmost respect and attention. This is another nice little area here. Over the bridge, mindful of oncoming traffic. Thank you very much, sir. And off we go. I think the best way to ride this is to ride it in a sort of a advanced manner, and position yourself for best view so that you get a good early view of possible hazards, traffic, surface, and all that kind of thing. And also keep the speed down, because any thoughts of coming along here at record-breaking speeds is pretty much out of the question from a safety point of view, I would suggest. But that doesn't make it unpleasant. It's actually quite nice to come along here and enjoy the road and enjoy the scenery. The other interesting thing today is I did wonder whether we'd be subject to a lot of sea mist. The weather forecast this morning was saying that the cloud would burn back, and often the sun at this time of the year does burn back well, obviously onto the offshore, but sometimes it doesn't, and I did wonder whether we might be sort of going through murky mist today, but it appears not. We're doing okay. I do find with this bike on these sorts of roads, the best thing to do is just put it in fourth gear, and it seems to be able to cope with anything between 25 and 105 in terms of speed range. It's almost like twist and go. I did comment on this when I took a MT-09 sit up and beg out on when I had the bike service last year, and I found that after riding that I sort of learnt that technique, and on these sorts of roads I find fourth gear and just leave it there, and it seems to be able to cope admirably. We're now in Burnham Deepdale, and the sign there is for Burnham Market, which is only about a couple of miles down that road, that left hand turn. Another very popular North Norfolk town, I guess. I think it's safe to say it's a town. Nice church there. And Burnham Market is also known as almost the Chelsea of Norfolk. There's an awful lot of people, celebrity type people, who have either second homes or indeed spend most of their time here now. So that's obviously quite pleasant. We're now coming into Brancaster Staithe, which is another quite pretty little Norfolk seaside village. Probably was more dedicated to fishing, but obviously leisure craft and so forth take up a lot of the economy, if you like, that's going on. But there's a lovely fish stall here, and fresh fish is usually readily available. All these flint and cast stone cottages you can see on the right here are probably holiday homes of some sort or another. There's very few local people actually live in the villages anymore because they've been sort of priced out, as it were. And as you can see, very popular, very busy. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we've just left Brancaster Staithe and we're now cruising through the village of Brancaster. Another very popular North Norfolk village. You've got a lot more of the flint and cast stone cottages here that seem to sort of almost dominate. All very pretty. So having left the village of Brancaster, we're now coming into the village of Titchwell. Now if you've got if you know anything or anybody linked with bird watching and wildlife, then they will have heard of Titchwell. This is probably one of the finest bird watching sites in the country, here in a tiny little village on the North Norfolk coast. People flock from all over the country here and enjoy the spectacles that can be seen. There's two big hotels here, the one on the left here, which is I think it's called the Manor, and then we've got the Briarfields Hotel, which is up here on the right, which caters very admirably for birdie people who are visiting the area. And the area off to my right is mostly RSPB owned or managed land, which is obviously why the area is so renowned for bird watching and the like. As we leave the village, just up here on the right hand side, we have the entrance to the RSPB Bird Reserve, which is, obviously very, very popular. I tend to come down here reasonably regularly because, as I've mentioned before, I might have mentioned anyway that I'm quite a keen wildlife photographer, and obviously being one of the finest wildlife areas in the county, or indeed the country, it's a place that I'm going to come to. But the problem is, of course, it's very, very popular, and on a day like today, that will be rammed. So I tend to avoid that. I tend to avoid it at any cost, but obviously with the COVID thing still with us, any sort of unnecessary contact with vast groups of people is something that I tend to try and do at the moment. So I tend to come down here sort of off season, probably sort of maybe end of September onwards, when the children have gone back to school. And although there is obviously a lot of older people who have no children come here in those sort of periods, there's much less numbers because obviously the holiday maker traffic is not around. So it's quite very poignant sort of place to visit for wildlife enthusiasts. The other thing, of course, about the North Norfolk coast is there are a plethora of footpaths both along the coast and inland from here. So as you've seen no doubt on the videos, we've come across a lot of cyclists. Walking is also a popular pastime around here, as well as water sports, wildlife, bird watching and the like. So all those factors lead to a very busy summer period and an awful lot of traffic and people around. We're now in the village of Thornham. which is very similar, I guess. You know, flint Carstone cottages, very pretty, relatively untouched. I mean, some of the, you may have noticed on the video going through some of the other villages that there is a certain amount of new builds going on, like this one here, for example, that is built in the style of the surrounding area. But a lot of the cottages are, you know, really quite old and unblemished, as it were. They've been sort of bought and renovated to a high standard and makes the place look quite nice and attractive. And of course all these sorts of areas spring up, some swanky delis and coffee shops and so forth pop up everywhere. Hello sir, well, here we are in Holme next to sea, and at the risk of repeating myself, another very pretty North Norfolk village, flint and Carstone in evidence everywhere again. But very peaceful, very pretty. Also a relatively smooth bit of road. What a treat that is. So we're not far from the northwest Norfolk mecca that is Hunstanton. We have got to negotiate our way through Old Hunstanton first. Old Hunstanton is obviously a centuries probably old seaside village, but Hunstanton itself was created by the Lestrange family, which is the local estate, I guess, estate holder. And back in the day they created the town of Hunstanton as purely as a seaside resort for people coming from, well, just about anywhere to spend their summer holidays. There was a period, I think in the 1800s, I think, when people were given 2 weeks off in the summer. Factories would close down in the Midlands and up north, and of course they needed to have somewhere to come to spend their holidays. And of course Hunstanton is one of those towns that sprung up alongside a railway line, which is now sadly not there, but is still nonetheless very popular with tourists. But an awful lot of the locals still prefer Old Hunstanton. It has that lovely beach, which is easily accessible. Parking can be a bit of a problem, but if you get here nice and early you should be okay. And it's also where the lifeboat station is stationed. That has a very sort of special place in my heart, because for some years, up until the late 70s, they didn't have a lifeboat station here in this part of Norfolk. But I'm very proud to say that my father-in-law was instrumental in having the lifeboat station returned here. So we have a bit of almost a family link to that. So that's something that we're very proud of. So we're now sort of slowly making our way through the village of Old Hunstanton. Again, flint, Carstone, very pretty. Yeah, also, I mean, a lot of these cottages here are, you know, possibly second homes, but there are an awful lot that are available to rent should you wish to come and stay down here for a week or so. So that is obviously a very pleasant place to be. We're now coming out of Old Hunstanton and approaching New Hunstanton, or Sunny Honey, or Hunston as they call it around here. And you can see, hopefully pick up ahead on the camera, the wide sea views that we have here. Coming in from this angle, I'm going to take a left here at this point and go along the front. Hopefully we can get a good sea view. Ahead you have what remains of the lighthouse here at Hunstanton. It is not used as a lighthouse anymore, but it's still quite a popular landmark locally. And the sea is all in front of us. Fantastic. As I mentioned earlier, I thought it might be a little bit misty along here today, but it's not proven to be the case, it has to be said. Here's another photo opportunity. If ever you're out this way, you can stand in this archway that you can see over to my right here and get a good view of the lighthouse through the archway. That's a very popular local photo opportunity should you ever come out this way, to remind you of your visit to Hunstanton. You can see by the number of cars parked along the side of the road here how popular it is today. So I don't doubt there'll be lots of people along the front. The other thing that's been added this year, as you can see ahead hopefully, is a sort of a London Eye style wheel, which has been come out of nothing, so to speak, and is going to be here for this season. And I also believe that's proven to be very popular. Yeah, so we're going to make our way as usual down to the seafront and park on the front there. There'll probably be quite a few motorcycles down there today. And after this lovely ride we've had around, I think I deserve a ice cream or possibly a coffee and donut. We'll see. I'm not quite sure what yet, but we'll have a ponder on that and think about that short. So actually get quite a good view. I don't know whether the camera's picking that up. I'm sort of trying to point it that way, so hopefully you can see down the front. Yep, from here. That's quite a decent view. Actually, there's not many motorbikes at all. There's two, which is no bad thing really, because you know, obviously to keep away from people is always a good thing, and especially in these troubling times. So we'll make our way up to the parking area. There are all the usual stuff along here, the fish and chip shops, the amusement arcades and so forth. All sorts of stuff to keep the tourists happy. It's not very often that I come into Hunstanton from this way. I'm usually coming from the other way, as it were. So this is quite a new thing for me. Right, so as we park up here for our well-earned stop, I'm going to park up, but this won't be the end of the video today, I hope. What I'm going to do, I hope, is to, when we make our usual ride home back to Downham Market, what I'm hoping to do is maybe take a bit of a detour and go around Wolverton, which is a very interesting place if you're into royalty and so forth. I will see some quite impressive sights down there. So we'll stop for now and just start the old girl up again. We'll stop for now and then you'll join me later once I've been refreshed and we'll head back towards Downham Market. But on the way, like I say, we'll probably just have a little detour around the village of Wolverton and have a look around and see what we can see. So join me later. Right, so as promised, here we are. We've just left the A149 towards King's Lynn, and we're just going to take a little ride here around Wolverton village. I can remember I came round here about 3 or 4 years ago for the first time, believe it or not, bearing in mind that I've lived about here pretty much all my life, and it made my jaw drop. So I'm hoping that I've got the right road, and that I can remember that everything that I remember is actually still here, because if it is, we're in for a little bit of a treat, I think, in how the other half lives. Wolverton is a little village on the Sandringham estate that obviously belongs to the Queen, and this is somewhere where she has one or two interests, as we will hopefully see as we go around. This is Wolverton Church. This is, it's not a very good view here. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can get a better view. Or at least from the front anyway. Yeah, there we go. I mean, that is Wolverton Church. The Queen does come here occasionally. She usually goes to the one at West Newton, but occasionally comes here for a service. So that is one of the things that is quite interesting to see. Right, let's carry on and see what else we can find. So, make up your mind, pheasant. Oh dear. That's one of the things you do have to look out for here in Norfolk. Pheasants, and there's quite an active pheasant shoot here on the Sandringham estate. Those cottages back there were typical sort of farm worker, I guess, estate cottages. Ah, now then, just up here we have Wolverton Railway Station. The station is obviously not used at the moment. I'll just stop here and so that you can get a view of it. Yeah, so that is Wolverton Station, and the railway line that used to come from King's Lynn to Hunstanton obviously used to pass through here. And the Queen, when the railway line used to come through this way, this is where the Queen used to alight for Sandringham. I think this was built and so forth in the days of King Edward the VIII, I think it was, the one after Queen Victoria. So I'm sure one of you historians out there will put me right. But this is where the Queen used to alight for Sandringham. Obviously the railway line is not there anymore, so she comes up, usually when she comes this way, she comes up as far as King's Lynn and then is obviously chauffeured here in the car for the rest of the journey. But as you can see, this station is now immaculately maintained and is a railway museum, not only to the sort of railway heritage of the area, but also for the Queen and her role here, as it were. So it's a very, very pristine looking area, it has to be said. Whoever owns it now is obviously an England supporter, because we have the old England flags up ready for the football, which is great to see. And it was also great to see, getting back to the football, to see Prince George and Prince William at the game cheering the lads on. Fantastic. So that's Wolverton Station. Now you can see down the railway line where that used to travel, and you can also see, hopefully, the station and its platforms and so forth. And there's the old signal box on the right and the white gate. Fantastic. Very nice photo opportunity. So let's go through the village, shall we? Yes, let's do that. As you can see ahead there is the Royal Studs. The Queen has a very big interest in race horses, and that is obviously part of her yard, and where the horses are trained and looked after. I thought we got a better view of it than this, which I'm a little disappointed at. I was hoping to be able to show you, but never mind. That is where they are, and that's the entrance to it. So we'll continue back on our way. Lovely tree-lined part of the estate here. The rhododendrons are not quite out yet, but they won't be long, I don't think. And this is usually, well, some of them are coming. Or are they going off? They may well be going off. Not being a horticulturalist, I wouldn't know, but I know at certain times of the year there's a very vivid colour, sort of purpley pink down here with the rhododendron bushes, which is another feature of the royal estate. Well, we missed the church, unfortunately, never mind. But at least we saw the station, which was actually the main point of going down there, to show you that, because I think that's quite interesting. And I hope you did find it interesting. So I'm now going back onto the A149, and I'm going to be making my way home. It's a bit of a boring journey. So while I'm here, I shall end this video. I hope you've enjoyed it today. If you have, then obviously I'd encourage you to hit the subscribe button and the like, if you would. That would be great. And leave any comments that you can think of below, and I'll do my best to answer them. So in the meantime, this is Shutters and Speed signing off for today. So I'll bid you farewell and goodbye.